All right. Hello and welcome to this video. Thank you so much for tuning in and sharing this now moment with myself and with the lovely Miss Kate and one another. For those of you who haven't seen these videos before, welcome. Welcome back if you have. Our intention is the highest levels of love, light, benevolence for all, oneness and unity. And for those of you guys who have seen these videos before, I've been doing a few co-creative interactive experiences with other sisters who are kind of on the same journey that I'm on. And I've usually connected with everybody that I've done these with, usually through YouTube. But I think we connected through K.I.S.S, who, so we'll talk about that in a little bit though. But we're just going to talk. We're just going to do a little conversation. And I had a couple things that we're going to talk a little bit about, and just kind of as a precursor is the energies that we've been experiencing. Talk a little bit about what we're experiencing in this particular maybe phase that we're going through. Some of the synchronicities that Kate and I have been sharing, I think is really key. And then maybe we'll go into a little bit about Kate's story and kind of, I don't even want to call it the story, right? But the awakening journey that she's been on and, or that you've been on.
Whatever it is.
Exactly. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to have this conversation. And so we'll just go right into it, Kate. I know that I want to just back up a little bit and talk about our like little dream circle that you started, right? And that kind of leads into, I was introduced to Kate. We've had a session together. We kind of co-created, we'll just say, and recognized that there were a lot of synchronicities, not only in how we do things, what we do, and also kind of how we are awakening, I guess, together in this journey. And Kate started this dream circle. So we've been kind of interacting with a group of sisters talking about our dreams. And I have been really blown away by the synchronicities in all of our dreams, in our particular dream circle.
Yeah.
So I'd love to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it was definitely a co-created thing because I think it came about, I got the inspiration. I apologize. I have my dogs around me. I got the inspiration, I think, through our kind of dynamic with Candice, kind of speaking about our synchronicities. And I was just like, there's something going on here and we need to make a thing of it.
Yeah.
And it just kind of opened up to a couple more sisters, and it is just mind-blowing and mind-boggling every day.
Yeah.
Just the different threads that are woven together, and it's like somebody over here has this thread and somebody over here has this thread, and then it's just been so fun to share it with each other though.
Yeah.
So
and it's been, what we're talking about is synchronicity, because, and almost like this, it's like we're having a collective experience, and then there's certain soul groups that I'm finding, and I'd love to chat a little bit about that too, that are connecting. And so it's like a lot of the messages that I've received have been like, go out, find your soul tribe. And there's definitely multiple ones, but there is, what I'm seeing, a lot of people are connecting and linking up, and kind of the puzzle pieces are kind of interlocking, and we're making these connections with, wow, that happened to me, and wow, that's what I've been seeing. And then as we, like you said, thread these together, it almost becomes like answers to questions that maybe we might have had, or it leads us into other
exactly
portals.
Yeah, I think, you've said it just right. And I think, it's the first stage of moving into this unity state consciousness, which is telepathy.
Yeah.
So those of us who are literally sharing the same streams, threads or streams of frequency, You know, we are sharing the same thought form. You know, it's coming from the same whatever oversoul monad. And I think that's exactly right. It's linking up, it's recognition.
Right.
And actually that reminds me, in the summer I had this just beautiful vision and download, and it brought me to tears. But it was like I saw all of these kittens, and they were peeping out of the curtains, the sides of the curtains, and they were kind of really shy and a bit timid. But it was like, you know, it's safe to come out and show yourself and be seen and play, because these kittens had that playful energy. And it was like, you know, come out, introduce yourselves, and then have fun and play together. And that's what we're doing.
I love that. I think that's one of the first synchronicities that we all had was cats and the number 9.
Yeah.
Right. And that was one of the big flows that we went into. And interestingly enough, I've been getting a lot of references again to 9 and 10, which we can talk about another time.
Wow. Yeah.
Or at the end. But I want to come back to, because I'd written down a couple notes and I was like, well, that leads me into our truth, because what you're talking about is being playful about it. So I think a lot of people do take it too seriously, you know, and maybe that's their thing and it's not wrong. That's just their own flavor or style. But my messages that I get, I don't know about you, are always be playful, create. Yeah.
I find my guides actually remind me to be playful sometimes, because I think I can get quite serious about it too, you know. Definitely in the past, you know, when I was beginning to understand myself as a multidimensional being, you know, there were times, I guess, where things could maybe be a bit overwhelming, or, you know, you start to take things a little bit seriously, or maybe too literally. I don't know what it is, but I definitely find myself being coaxed and back into the playful energy. But I think, you know, that's, I think, what bonds us, our little dream circle, or whatever we want to call it, because there is that foundation of play. And I think that's really important.
And I think this is like the new version of support group. You know, everybody needs that support network. I popped onto YouTube so that I could share what I was experiencing, because I knew that it helped. Part of it was just for me, because I did feel like it was something to share. But in doing that, I was able to then connect with others who were experiencing a lot of what I was going through, so that they didn't feel alone. And now those more and more of us are linking up, and we become this support network. And that does keep it more fun and less of, I'm alone, I have no one to talk to about this. And I'd love to go. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to reiterate. I think that's so true. I think when you're maybe secluded, or you feel like you're going through it alone with anything in life, you know, you need somebody to bounce off. And I think that's, you've hit the nail on the head there. It's the support network is, and I'm sitting here and I'm realizing, you know, how every day I'm grateful for it. But, you know, when you have that reminder of, wow, you know, from that place of walking that path alone, seemingly alone, to now where we're, you know, constantly bouncing back and forth. And it makes me feel grateful. And
I think everybody, we kind of touched on this briefly right in pre-conversation, just about how there's going to be a lot of people, and there are a lot of people who are maybe at the beginning stages of waking up. Then there's other people that are, you know, they've been doing this for a really long time, and they've kind of got a system intact. Although I'd love to talk briefly down the road about how I feel like everything has changed yet again. But
constantly,
right? Like this week, yesterday.
Wow. Like seriously, that, yeah, I guess, and that's what is happening, right? Sorry,
Yeah.
I apologize. I'm just going to get my headphones. I'm trying to drown out my dog from snorting.
No, that's okay. I love it when your dog snores. I think it's hilarious.
I think anyone who knows me, it's like a common sound. But yeah, the concept of time speeding up, or whatever this is, time or this experience, everything's kind of fast mode right now for sure. It's like, yeah, what's today gonna bring? What's the energy today? Because it's everything. The word shape shifting, I feel like we use that quite a lot in our group, and I think that is just the energy of now. It's like everything is shape shifting.
I love that. This morning, speaking of, I kept getting reference to crows, and crows are shapeshifters.
Oh,
That's
wow.
their, that's the power animal of the day, other than the possum. But
oh yeah.
But the crows are shapeshifters and magic. And that was what I kept seeing reference to, was crow. I even talked about that a little bit when I was recording. But having said that, I'd love to kind of go back into the whole concept of the support system and talk a little bit about kind of where we're at now, and then go backwards into your journey, because you'd made a really beautiful comment. Just, there's a lot of people that are finding their journey right now, and they're kind of in this process of, and who knows, everybody's is unique, everybody's is different. Mine has similarities to yours, but also very different. And yet here we are connecting in such a way that it's bringing through a lot of our connections. So
totally.
What I'd love to talk a little bit and go backwards, and then we'll come into the energies of what's going on now. But have you always, let's maybe go back and talk about where have you always been doing what you've been doing, and just to kind of share, what is it? And I want to just touch on that briefly, because there's no pressure to answer that question, because I find myself sometimes going, what do I do exactly?
Yeah, exactly. It's hard to put labels on things now when we're shape-shifting so rapidly, I think. But yeah, I can totally try and answer that question. So have I been doing this forever? No. Well, yes and no.
I know a little bit about it, but I'd love for you to tell everybody else about it.
Yeah, totally. So this is really interesting, because it's something that I have actually had to ask myself a bit recently. Just listening to other people's discussions and things like that. The question comes up, were you born awake?
Right.
And I've been thinking about that a bit, because at first I would have said no, but I actually believe I was, but it's like I didn't fully realize, if that makes sense. So, I won't go through absolutely my entire life here, but just little things. I had, for instance, one reoccurring experience when I used to sleep at night as a child, and at the time I didn't understand what it was, but it was, now looking back on it, I know what it is. And actually, because I've done regressions as well, but it was like this recalibration of energy frequency within my being, within my human vessel. And it was kind of like I was perhaps re-experiencing what I would call the trauma of the soul's journey into this incarnation. And I've seen that through regression. So I used to have this, I would say, most nights, and it wasn't a visual experience. It was just pure energy. And it was, the only word, I've thought about this long and hard, the only word I could describe it as is pure violation. It was not a nice experience. Like it was pretty horrible, and I just had no idea. I didn't speak about it with my parents or anything like that, because I just didn't really know how to even put it into words, what I was experiencing. But I was definitely I was definitely raised in a family. I would say neither of my parents were very spiritual. I'll say that. I did have my grandma, however, she was very connected to the energetic realm. So I had that influence in my family, but I would say my big awakening was actually the solar eclipse. And I'd be interested to know what for you, but I bet it's the same, the 2017 solar eclipse. And I've spoken to Candice, and she's the same.
Yeah.
Which actually ties into, I guess, what you were saying about these soul groups. And I was talking to somebody the other day, and we were saying, you know, these anchor points within the timelines, these astrological experiences, whatever you want to call them, I think they really show, you know, various soul groups basically in their, you know, transformational journey.
Yeah.
So
I have a tendency to see like the gears, like let's pretend that the galaxy that we exist in is like a giant clock with all these gears in it, and everything aligns a certain way, and then this lattice structure connects, and it's like ping, 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 and things light up. And
yes,
so just and then you make these connections with people, places, things, memories, fill in the blanks, to then have that
yeah, exactly. And I think the solar eclipse in 2017 really put me on I would say a rapid trajectory.
Yeah.
Where it was a catapult for me.
Yeah.
I was like, ping.
Yeah. So
like,
it's interesting.
So quick.
You brought up a good point, and I love the fact that, you know, I too feel that many of us, we come in awake as babies, right? I heard somebody say, interestingly enough, was a psychologist, and she was saying that, you know, a lot of kids don't really experience their trauma, or they don't have it, it's right around the age of 11, or not, like 9 to 11 or something, where they kind of lose that just openness and life is good. And some kids it's sooner than that, but I guess that's the average age. And I feel like as kids, like you said, your parents didn't necessarily have any knowledge about it. Mine didn't either. Mine were really religious, not spiritual. But
okay.
But what I see is that you don't know how to explain it as a kid. And so it's not like our parents were taught as we are now when we're around other kids. You know, like somebody might draw a picture of you and they might draw your aura. And my mom, who was doing the best that she could, would be like, oh, that's not real, honey. That's just a picture. And that's just a rainbow. And we're like, no, that's your aura. And, and that's where a lot of these teachers are stepping forward. But anyways, so I'll come back to your experience. So you had a lot of little things that added up to it. And then in 2017, boom, you were catapulted. And did you just start speaking light language, or did you start having conversations with your, I know a little bit about it, but I'd love for you to share what was like the big whoa.
Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to rewind a little bit, because there were certain things that were leading up to this point, and that point was like, as you said, the aha moment, because I'd had basically very powerful premonitions all my life, very powerful downloads, and I actually had one when I was about 20 years old, and it actually scared me so much, because you know how the higher self speaks to us in this strange metaphorical language, and you know, if you're not used to dissecting that and you take it literally, it can be quite interesting. So I had this huge premonition. It was just wow. And it was like scene after scene after scene was shown to me of my future. And it kind of ended with this download that I would die when I was 30. And every single scene from that premonition came true as I was living out my 20s. So I kind of thought I might pass over at the age of 30. I didn't have I didn't have the context to place that in, but it was 2017 that I was 30. So
Death and rebirth.
I did die, but
yeah. The Phoenix Rising. I love the fact that you brought up the fact that, so just to kind of go backwards, this whole, it isn't always sunshine and rainbows, first of all. It isn't like, you know, and some people do have that experience, and that's wonderful. That's what they're here. That's how they're experiencing it. But like you said, it wasn't always pleasant. You were having memories of maybe past traumas, and you were essentially, from my perspective, integrating those a little bit and remembering it at the same time. And you didn't really have a teacher saying, this is what's going on. So you just had to figure it out.
Yeah, totally. And it's interesting because according to my natal chart, and I think this is interesting for people to look at, it's like, was that written into your kind of soul contract? Choose that. The family and not the family, of course we choose the family, but that environment.
Yeah.
And it's quite interesting to look at that, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say I would have these weird experiences which were completely out of context. But now those dots have joined and it's all making sense in a very big way. But yeah, I had kind of a lot of scary experiences, and I'm actually even beginning to remember abductions and things like that. So I don't know how much actually I was aware of as a child. Perhaps I closed some things off, you know. But yeah, it's just fascinating when you kind of open that door and think, wow.
So with the abductions, and I certainly would love to go into that a little bit more detail at another time, because we're going to try to jump. But when you have someone, let's say someone watching this who has gone through these experiences or is going through them now, what is your biggest piece of advice what can you share with them to help them process this? What would you recommend if you had a teacher back then while you were going through this? What would have helped you?
I think really the thing that we've already discussed, and that is find your tribe. Find your tribe. You know what got me through, you know, after I started to realize that I was multidimensional, I guess that's the way to put it, is really going online and listening to other people's stories. And it wasn't for, you know, a good while that I actually connected and found my tribe, but just even having that point of reference is very, very helpful. So actually I'm grateful for the internet for that reason. But yeah, I think there's just so much out there now. I think it's a completely different different ball game, right? Because, you know, so many people are speaking out about it and sharing their story. So
it's all at our fingertips.
And I think that's what it is. It's just, you know, realizing you're not alone. As soon as you realize that, it's all good, I think. Yeah,
it all unfolds from there. And also processing it. So you did some regression.
Oh, right, yeah.
You know, that might have been something that people out there listening could give that a try. I'm always for try it, see if it works, see if it helps, and, you know.
Yes. I think so, because I think when you are awakening to the multidimensional experience, and pretty much everything that I do is based on that perspective. It's based on helping people, connect with their multidimensionality. And I think when we do that, we become curious to explore it. So I would say regressions are actually a great place to start, but obviously everybody's different and you have to see what feels right for you. But I would definitely say, if you can try and find a recommendation, as with any healer or anybody that you're going to be working with, it's important to find somebody that you really resonate and you feel safe with.
I love that. Comfortable.
Yes, definitely. Because I think for me, that's been a big healing journey, is based around that feeling safety. Right. And I think I think a lot of us carry trauma actually coming into this lifetime, or at least into this density. And that actually really was that kind of nightmarish experience that I used to feel. It really was to do with it was like the texture, the quality of this, the weight of this density. And that comes through quite a lot with the conversations I have as well. So I think regression can be very healing, in the way that it gives you answers. And I think when we have context, that is one of the biggest healers, actually, because I think unknowingly there's so many people out there looking for answers. They don't even know what they're looking for, but it's to have that bigger perspective. It's to have that context. So anything, when you're awakening, I would say, dive right in and try and find that context and try and place yourself within that. And that's a good place to start.
I think for me, I just started listening to everything. I'd listen to YouTube. I was just on it constantly because I was like a sponge. But now we're kind of at that stage too, where I think a lot of people, we're so sprinkled about, so the star seeds will call us, the light workers. We're so embedded in the matrix, in the architecture of reality, that it's almost, I find everywhere I go now, there's someone who is a light worker. I'm just going to call, I call everybody a starseed. But so you'd be surprised how many, like you said, it's stepping out of the woodwork. And a lot of people who have done the work or who are doing the work, and sometimes it's just about somebody saying, yeah, I've been there. And you go, oh, whew, I'm not crazy. I'm not alone. Yeah. And I think that's a big part of this. And now what's happening is more and more people are remembering, like you went through, you're remembering and going on this journey. And being able to talk about it and not feel crazy is really important. So sometimes it's finding that one person who can make you feel, like you said, comfortable and not afraid, and then all of it just kind of unravels from there. And it's so funny that you just used the word texture in context, because I literally said the word texture earlier today about our realities, and how sometimes what we have going on is just a texture to add a little flavor. So I'd like to touch briefly on the multidimensional aspect, because you have mentioned that. And what is your concept? How would you describe your multidimensionality? What does that mean for you? I mean, I know what it means for me, but someone says, well, what does that mean? And how do I know that that's what I'm experiencing? And what is your little, concept?
That's a good question. And multidimensionality for me goes hand in hand with finding your true sovereignty, I want to say. It's about embodiment as well. So coming into a state of full expression that goes beyond the human identity. So it goes beyond, the personality that we've formed in this lifetime. So I guess it's hard to put into words.
I know, that was really like, I didn't mean to just throw that on you. Let's just go there.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great question, because I use that word so much around the people that I'm working with and around, but it's like, you know, how would I explain that to somebody who maybe isn't so deeply rooted within that concept already?
Yeah.
But multidimensionality, I think it's about, you know, really exploring, and I guess this is, you know, where creativity comes in, actually. I think, and light language, it's about the, you know, expression of truth, and that comes through creativity. It comes through really letting go and allowing yourself to be like, I am going to express myself in energy. So
and
and
it
it's
can really
allowing
be
those
anyway, through
anyway, exactly. And it's just allowing those frequencies, because it's all energy. The multidimensional reality is all energy. So it's allowing yourself to be the channel. Everybody's a channel. Everybody can allow that frequency to come through and then express it. Painting, cooking, singing, dancing.
Oh, we froze.
Even gardening. I don't know. Just any way that you are allowing yourself to express that energy, you know? And I think this is where, you know, people get so lost or confused when, you know, living in the matrix or whatever we want to call it. It's and this is, I'm speaking from my own experience here. It's like we have that hunger, almost that thirst that can't be quenched. So it's, you know,
you're back.
Oh, I'm back. Okay, sorry, I think I need to plug that in. But yeah, so I think that is, you know, it's what everybody's looking for, right?
Yeah. I love the fact that you mentioned that, because, and I feel the same way. I feel like we aren't just going to work, going from point A to point B. There's more to it. And so for me, it's the same thing. It's creative expression, really, because how do all of, you know, people have a tendency to say, okay, well, these people, you either have it or you don't. Bottom line is, that's old paradigm, an old mentality, and that's
oh yes,
that's being stuck in a box. And so you know, oftentimes I meet people or connect with people, and they say, you know, how do I tap into that, or what does that mean? And I always like to get that from other light workers, because it is different for everyone. And multidimensional means you're just not in one linear, you know, box. It's like,
exactly,
if you've been doing the same thing your whole life, but you want to try something different, it helps you tap in with these other expansive places. And it's not like it's
of you.
Right, exactly. And
yeah, and I think you're right there. I think you're so right. It's not an exclusive thing. We are all multidimensional. I believe we're all multidimensional. But it really comes down to our soul contract, what we are here to express, what we are here to embody. Some people might be, you know, this is why when we get into the starseed realm, some people really identify with, for instance, the Pleiades, you know, and that's because I believe this is my perspective, that is within their soul journey, to bring that in, to anchor that in, and to channel that into this collective. So that is why some people might identify as more whatever,
right,
cosmic, more angelic, more, you know, earthly, more elemental.
right.
It doesn't mean that we can't all access that. It doesn't mean that we all don't have these aspects, but it's just like, who are we embodying in this lifetime? And maybe, you know, down the line we will all be embodying everything.
Yeah.
But at this point in time, or this point on this ascension journey, you know, we are all expressing slightly different frequencies.
Right, which
but
makes
yeah,
it fun.
it's a big old multiverse out there.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot to bring through. So
Yeah.
it all, comes back to play with it. Play.
And how do you create your space that you sit within when you go into this space of your when you're connecting with your guides and you're connecting with your ancestors, and how do you create your space? And then what does it feel like when you make that connection?
So for me, this is a really interesting question because, and this has come through recently for me because I've had my natal chart read a couple of times, and it's always been such a different experience, depending who's reading it. But anyway, I had it read the other day, and it was really came through that, I am here to be a channel. And it's funny because this is something that I received recently from my guides. They said, and it's so beautiful. It was like, I am always channeling. I'm always connected when I'm completely anchored in my heart, rather than maybe a place of fear, so anxiety or something like that. So for me, and this comes back to the creativity thing, all I need to do is feel inspired and root in through the heart space. That is really that's really what I do. So it's all about really, I try to maintain that as much as I can. And if I'm having an off day, I do find it harder to make that connection. That the frequency that I'm connecting to, maybe it will be a bit off. So just really feeling inspired. And I know everybody says it, but high vibrational emotions like gratitude and just joy, and get out in nature and just connect with that energy. I often connect with my guides on walks and things like that.
Yeah,
because,
me too.
It raises the frequency. This is a weird one, but I find having a bath and being in water, immersed in water,
huge,
is a very powerful one. But I have a lot of different little techniques, and but for me, actually, it's sitting down and drawing, either sitting down or drawing, or kind of doodling or something like that, and allowing that creative energy to come through. Just allow it to kind of flow, and not put too much pressure on it. And how does it feel when I connect? It really feels very different depending on the consciousness, I suppose, or the energies that I'm connecting to. Sometimes it can be a lot. Sometimes it can bring me to tears, and it's such a strong energy and it surges through me. But other times it can just make me feel, it makes me feel like I'm at home.
I love that.
It just makes me, I feel like, hey guys.
Yeah. They're like welcome
I'm
home.
back in my happy place.
Yeah, I love that. And it's so funny. I have to share, I have a feeling that there's people out there who, I know there's people out there that are freaked out by that feeling, and also people that are not used to it. I feel that there's such a large group in the collective, not necessarily among everybody. And maybe I've been there. I see other people that are there, and I know that part of the reason we've gone through the journey in the way that we have is to help others recognize that, there's different ways, and there's different feelings, and there's different beings, and there's different, and it's all different flavors. And sometimes that feeling of opening the heart and just trusting and being in a space of love. First of all, I love the fact that you said it's not always easy to do. You said it in somewhat of those words, but also that affects where you're at, what energies you're connecting into. And that's a big clue right there. If you're just starting to do this and you're constantly in a place of fear, I feel like we're in that space where we need to really get to know our own heart and our own bodies and how to be in a place of gratitude and love before we're trying to channel and do all this other stuff, because we are natural channels and we're attracting to us our vibration. Now, without going too much into that might be a whole other conversation. I love the fact that once you're there, it feels home and it feels like love, and it feels right.
Yeah.
And there are
that's the compass.
Right. And there are those that have been in such anxiety, don't you think, that for so long, or don't know how to hold that space, that when they get there, and it's not like I'm saying get there like you have arrived, but all of a sudden they're present and open up, it's like overwhelming. And like you said, it can feel overwhelming sometimes.
Yeah, it definitely can. And it can feel overwhelming. But for me, it's overwhelming with love.
Yeah.
It's overwhelming with love. And as you said, if you're in a place of fear, then, I think that's a sign to, come back in and work through that, because you really want to be holding the love frequency. It's a big old multiverse out there. You want to be really connecting to your higher self. How do we do that? We connect through the portal of our heart space. So if we're rooted in fear, we're not going to be able to get that frequency connection. So,
and I, like you said, work through it and don't ignore it.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah. I definitely think, if something comes up within me and it's a constant work in progress, right? If any kind of past traumas and things like that surface, I will definitely make a point to acknowledge that and work through it. And they coming back to the energies, they're so fast moving now. We don't have to get stuck there for long. It can be an hour. You can be like, right, acknowledged, seen, felt, witnessed, gone. Or not gone, integrated.
Yeah.
And what I wanted to say as well is, when people are getting familiar with their own expression and way of I guess integrating and connecting with these higher soul aspects of themselves, it's learning. I think what's been helpful for me is learning, am I a feeler? Or am I a hearer? It's looking into the clairs maybe, and some of us have more of the clairvoyance or the clair sentience. I'm not very good with the names, but
I know.
Actually acknowledging, like, are you somebody, I think everybody can relate to this, like, are you somebody that gets goosebumps regularly? And I think we've all seen it, us guys in the awakened community, that any gift right now is heightening. So for those of us who are clairsentient, it's just gone to the next level. It's just like, whoa, like goosebumps. It's more like a complete, for me, I feel on my crown a lot. And sometimes on my back, but I know Candice, for instance, she's very much like her back, and I don't know where you feel yours, but
it changes for me. And I love the fact that you're bringing that up, just to go backwards a little bit. I think Candice and Megan get the pulsing third eye, the third eye pulse. I get that sometimes too. Sometimes I get it through my crown. I call them, some people call them the angel wings. I call them the bat wings. Like Batman, okay, Batman's calling. So I get in, and I like to play with the shadow a little bit.
That's amazing.
I think the shadow has a lot to teach us. And I get a lot of messages through like shadow movies and things like that. I don't make a habit. I don't make a habit of watching them, because I don't like to place myself in that state of fight or flight or fear, because that can affect my frequency if I allow it.
Exactly. And we have to be careful of the subconscious programming, and that for me, you know, I love all that stuff. I love it. Like my conscious self loves it, but you know, yeah, you don't want to sit watching horror films like day in, day out. Definitely not, because it does affect. But no, I completely agree. I think that is where we grow. It's like the darkness, the soil, the womb, you know, it's the void where the growth potential is the greatest, for sure. And I've definitely found that out the hard way. Through, you know, what I guess, I don't know if you call them dark nights of the soul, but you know, those shedding and rebirthing processes. But it's like, yeah, that's where you look back and you're like, wow, I learned so much there. And so all those kind of shadowy films.
If you break it down, I mean, I don't watch shadow films as much, but every once in a while my husband will be like, well, let's watch this. And I, out of the corner of my eye, will hear them talk about like, what I think I told you girls, Dracula. It was blood and DNA and everything, memories. And I'm like, what? So if we can stay in that space of just being a witness and not getting sucked in, no pun intended, sucked in to what it is that's being projected, and recognize that I can see the light and the balance of the dark, and recognize that can be a teacher as well. I think that's key. Definitely. With bringing it back into fear, and recognize that when we work through these fears, it helps us to get back into the heart, because then we love ourselves and we love what's coming up for us, and we love the people in our life that have created that situation for us to grow from. You know, that's not always easy to do. And I love the fact, I don't know, I just call it shadow work. I don't even call it, people go through that dark night of the soul is what it's a reference. I just call it wrestling with the shadow a little bit. It's like, I think there's that story in the Bible, like wrestling with the shadow. Joseph wrestles with the shadow person.
Oh, okay.
And I always think of that. And essentially it's, at the end, you shake hands and you're like, okay. And you absorb, integrate, and it becomes more powerful. Yeah. And just like you said, looking back, I don't know about you, but if I think about, I've had quite a few deaths and rebirths, and quite a few dark nights of the soul, and shadow wrestling. And I look back and I could think of just one moment of maybe, let's say I went through it for let's say 3 months of just terribleness at the time. That's what it felt like. And I look back at those little memories and each one had this beautiful nugget that now I'm like, wow. Blows my mind.
Yeah, totally. You know? And I think that's why it gets easier, because now when I'm, you know, to be honest, you know what? It's got to the point now where if I'm triggered, I'm kind of like, cool, bring this on, because it means that you're ready to go to the next level. It means that you're ready. Your higher self is setting you up with a situation that's going to confront, you know, certain things within you, so that you can, you know, work through it, integrate it, and grow. So it's actually you know, it's having that perspective really helps, for sure. And I'm not saying, you know, I don't have days where I'm just like, no, I just am staying on the sofa today, but you know, I think having the perspective and seeing, and this is again, this is why I always say context, having the context, because I think people can do that spiral thing where you get sucked so into it. And I think that's what you said about the horror films as well. You get so sucked into it, and it's like you need to pull yourself out of it. You need to have that perspective and be like, oh, okay, so this is just part of the journey. It's part of becoming whole and actually becoming multidimensional as well. So I think, you know, weaving it back to that conversation, it's like, you know, multidimensionality isn't all about the higher dimensions. A lot of it is doing the work down here, you know, in the 3D, and integrating those shadows.
this is the dimension too. This is one of the many, and it's not to be ignored or tried or avoided, because otherwise we wouldn't be in this body embodying the multidimensional aspects that we came here to represent and to play with, to play from. And it's funny because I'm thinking about that whole weaving it in with the aspect of not just the shadow work, but I kind of lost my train of thought because you said something and I was like, oh, that's so potent. And I'm thinking of potent.
That happens to me a lot.
Spell binding. Part of it is the, self-expression, but finding those little nuggets, I kind of brought that into, and you were saying it's important to come back into multidimensionality. This is going to bug me. I have to pause this for a minute. So I did pause this for a minute, and Kate and I I was trying to go back into what Kate had said. And we were laughing because, and then Kate said, well, this is it. This is channeling. So you guys, multidimensionality, it is hard to find a linear, like when I jump on and we do these interactions, and I'm just kind of new at this, but I recognize, so kudos to the people out there that have been doing this for a while and interview people, because this isn't an interview. We're having a conversation, and in a multidimensional conversation, it is all over the place. There is no linear, and there's layers, and it threads over here and it threads over here. So we pulled in the shadow work, the multidimensionality, the light, the awakening process, kind of tying into and tapping into how do we know. And you had mentioned the clairs, and I kind of want to come back into that because I really liked that. And I think that's kind of where I wanted to go back into, is that our perception, or our whatever we are not just honed in on, but like visual, auditory, sensory, kinesthetic. I'm going to call those the clairs, which are clairaudient, clairvoyant, which is separate from telepathic. So everybody's got these certain things that they have a tendency to be more, I'm going to say, fluent in, So now it's heightened, I think, for all of us. And so there are going to be those out there that they're going to hear in a completely different way or stronger than they did before.
Yes.
Or see. And we talked about the body signals. Everybody's are different. So I think a lot of people have a tendency to think that in order to get their intuition, they have to see it, like with their eyes. Mm-hmm. And, that's what it was. You were talking about how strange it is, like some of the way that spirit communicates with us, or the universe communicates with us. It's not what we expect.
No. And I think that's actually what I say to people first when people say to me, how do I connect more with my guides, or how do I connect more with my higher self? And it's like, it's not how do I do that? It's how do I recognize what's already happening.
Right. I love that. Yes.
Learning the language of spirit, because spirit is always speaking to us in every moment.
Yeah.
We are, it's profound. And when that penny drops, that's it. The ball is rolling, and it's like, so that takes a little while, I think. And I think we all have different styles. Our higher selves speak differently because, it's like when you're connecting to different aspects or different, everything comes through a little bit different. So it's learning the code.
Yeah, I love
learning
that.
To crack the code.
Yeah. And I loved the fact that you called the higher aspects your different soul. How did you word that? It wasn't like outside of us. Are there soul aspects of us?
Yeah, exactly. And that's really what I realized a little while back, that, it's not externalization, it's internalization, and the guides are us.
Right.
And that's multidimensionality as well. And that's, I think as well that's another aspect of it, seeing multidimensionality, not in an overwhelming way that it's just like, whoa, there's so much, but it's all accessible in here, and you know, in our DNA.
Right.
And that's actually what I am going to be speaking a bit more about. I'm doing a workshop
Yeah,
in
let's talk a
London,
little
but
bit
I'm going to be going into this.
Yeah.
The DNA, you know, it's the code. I always use that word, the code, and it's coded everything in there. So it's like, don't go out here, start going in here, and just start observing how you read the signs, the synchronicities, isn't it? It's just how do those synchronicities present themselves, and really just noticing them more and more, and then they grow more and more. And
right. And that does also depend on, so it's, if you read the synchronicities while you're in your heart, they're going to show up for you different. Like, and I think this is also what I saw back to the shadow aspect, is that when we're doing the shadow work, like you get this information, like you're big, when you were 20, you had all this information come in and you were freaked out. Because of where you were at that time, and it could have been interpreted in one way, and now looking back on it, where you are now is a completely different interpretation.
Oh, it's completely different. And you know, I'm still working out, but I think I almost actually blocked myself from that potentially, because I had such a fear-based reaction. And I think, you know, spirit will pull back a little bit if you are kind of having that fear-based reaction. Doesn't mean it's going to go away forever, but you know, just really, as you said, coming back to the heart always, and you know, and trying not to have that fear-based reaction. Obviously I didn't really have any experience back then, but
right.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be scary.
Yeah. And that's also, you hit a valid point, or a valid. I just think it's nice that you said it can happen. All of this is valid. It can happen in an hour. That was very valid. I validate you.
Yeah.
Like a parking meter. And I think that's actually a good point too, is that validation we're kind of needing. I knew I needed that back in the day, or I thought I did. And now it's nice to have it, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't need it in the same way that I did back then, to know that I'm not, getting, you know, it's like, I don't need my neighbor to say, oh, yeah, right on, Carrie. I saw that spaceship in the sky too. It's right there. You know? Because they're in a completely different reality, timeline, dimension. Even though we're existing within each other, they overlap. And that's a whole other conversation, which I would love to.
And spaceships.
And spaceships. And I think that'll be we'll dive a little deeper in the next one. But I'd love to talk a little bit about that. So first of all, I'd love to talk a little bit about your workshop. Is it complete? Can people still sign up for it? I mean, obviously it's in London.
Yeah, no, so it's London. This one actually is sold out, but I think it's going to be a monthly thing.
Cool.
So yeah, every month is going to be slightly different. I call it a workshop. It's not really, I don't even know what is a workshop. It's again, linear thinking is going out the window, guys. Like it's not, it doesn't have a label on it. It's just me expressing my frequency without sounding too out there. It really is just me expressing my frequency through things like sound, and I make a lot of visuals. So it's an extrasensory immersive experience, and I'll do a little bit of talking about multidimensional DNA, you know, just introducing people to that concept that we're multidimensional, and how we can play with that and how we can activate it. So a lot of the work that I do is activations. I work very much just through frequency and that resonance. And actually in the Mayan calendar, I think it's called a wave spell. It's the like a Horus star sign thing, but it's for the ancient Mayan calendar. I'm a red resonant dragon, and it's all about I'm a galactic activation portal. But I like that it's the resonant. And I thought about that the other day, and I was like, yeah, that sums up what I do. So yeah.
The resonant
it's hard
activator.
To put into words, but it's more about the experience, and I speak more to the subconscious and the DNA and help people find their own multidimensional experience.
Yeah. And I just want to share for anybody that watches this, we just really hit the tip of the iceberg today. We're kind of like getting our rhythm and our flow. And this was I just wanted to touch on a few basics, but we're going to do this again. And I'd love to delve in much deeper on, because you were talking about multidimensionality.
I'd love that.
What's the quickest way to explain it? But then maybe we'll go into an example of, all right, this is how it activates. This is what we're feeling. This is what we're experiencing, because it really is layer after layer after layer. And today was a very brief layer. And we didn't even get into the rebirth and the dragons and the spaceships and all of that stuff yet. Because it's
all the fun things.
Yeah, this was just really keep it simple, star seeds, the first of a series. But Foundation. I will say I did a session with Kate, with you, and you just when you worked with me, I just felt it almost feels like our guides, our higher soul aspects, which I'm totally gonna pull that in and make that part of my language now. I love that. Stepped in, and you just feel and the visuals that you provided and the expression behind it really piqued my visualization and imagination. And it's also, like you said, a resonant behind, and I always talk about this with my own stuff and what most light workers do. It is the vibration that you bring to the table and that your entourage brings to the table. And it literally just in sharing that space activates the DNA.
Exactly. And that's what I say to everyone. And, it sounds a bit woo-woo and weird, but when I work, I'm not working alone, and neither are any of us. And it's like, whether I'm doing a healing session, one-on-one, or workshop or reading, I'm doing it as part of a wider collective. And that's what it is. It's about sharing those codes and bringing that through and having that multi-dimensional experience. But it was so beautiful connecting with you in that way. And it's like sparks, It's like we ignite each other, and we have codes to help and unlock different aspects of each other. And I think that's where this community is right now. We're realizing, we are all so unique. We're a unique expression of the wider picture, and we're here to help each other and provide each other with the missing links that maybe we haven't fully embodied yet, or we're not bringing through in this lifetime. And we're all networking, and it's so amazing and beautiful, and just so excited for 2020 and going forward, and working more together.
So we'll do like maybe 5 more minutes, I'm thinking, and then we'll probably call it the end of our chat. But moving forward, maybe we can just touch briefly on what are you feeling as far as this energy shift in this last week?
Whew. Okay, the last week.
Today backwards.
I can't think back a day. Okay, so last week.
Or just, you can do today, yesterday, and there, but whatever.
So, do you know what? It is very, I would say it's like paradox energy. It's like there's kind of a chaos about this energy, but it's like surfing the chaos a little bit, gliding through it, not getting stuck in it, and just being quite amazed at how physical it is. Like, I'm physically experiencing it a lot right now. This week, I would say there are weeks where I'm not so physical. I say this week, I think, what did I say the other day? My crown is exploding, and my third eye is pulsing, and it's just very upper chakra for me. But yeah, it's quite physical. But it's also got this, I keep using the word momentum, because I can feel everybody's moving with this momentum now. We're working more and more towards this amazing, and I think it's like, what are we moving towards? I don't quite know, but I think it's this unity, which is the homecoming.
Yeah.
So it's like this excitement, this joy, and this mesmerized frequency. It's like, oh, look what's happening, you know, we're coming together, and so a lot going on. But I would say they're definitely intense energies.
Yes, I had somebody who, I mean, literally I've had everybody this week that I have come across. A lot of, you know, actually I've had, I would say, I mean, not everybody. My husband is an anomaly. I always joke. My husband and Candace's husband.
Well, they're the alchemizers, right?
Right.
They're like alchemizing your frequencies.
Yeah.
They're your grounding cords.
Oh, and I, you know, just to touch briefly on that, I love that, because that's a really good way to end this, is staying grounded, because as this happens, it is easy to get swept away in the chaos. And when you use the word chaos, I just want to, that was another thing, is you talked about the context, and that was something I wanted to touch on. Even what we speak, not taking things so seriously, not taking things out of context. And so here we go, multidimensional, guys, this is how it works. Ding, ding, ding. So not taking things out of context, and recognizing that your context is completely different than somebody else's. And that is something I've noticed lately as well. My guides have me play with really awkward words and make a joke out of it, because not taking things so literally. And so as we go through this chaos, you know, there are going to be those that go, it's utter chaos, it's the end of days, this is going to happen, and that's their context. Our context is more like, woo, this is...
It is like that. That movement is spot on. Like, we don't need words. That is it.
Yeah.
Seriously, it is. It's just like, we need to flow. We need to just move through it. And I say that a lot. Like, dancing is amazing. Dancing comes through in a lot of my readings, a lot of my sessions. It's like, what can I do to just work through this? Dance. Move.
Dance. I always reference back to the Labyrinth, dance, magic dance.
Oh yeah.
And just get like funky, like do whatever you feel guided to do, because if we are, which we are, multidimensional beings, and we're embodying all of these versions of ourselves, we can be assured that other versions of ourselves have got some pretty funky moves.
I love that. I love that. That's so true. It's so true. And you know, one day you might be embodying a different frequency from the next, and that's okay. It's, you know, I think it's learning to flow in that constant ebb and flow, and allow that. Don't judge it. Don't judge yourself for how you feel in a day, and know that it's going to shift quite quickly. And I think that's what it is. I think we can be so hard on ourselves with, you know, the world that we live in, but it's just lighten up and just know that it will pass.
Yeah. Some days it's the robot, and other days it's going to be the funky Age of Aquarius hair music. dancing around. And the other thing I'll end on that is coming back into the heart, because once we learn to do what we're feeling guided and inspired to do, and we play with it and have fun, it brings through laughter, and laughter is the portal to the heart.
Yeah.
And being able to go, wow.
I think that's true. And also the beautiful thing is when you really, it's self-feeding and self-perpetuating, because when you have that connection to your higher self or whatever higher soul aspects, they are quite humorous. So they will keep you laughing.
I know. That is
then
so
is the
true.
anchor.
Yeah, that would be fun to do. That's something we should talk about doing, is like talk about, and we'll end on this note, but like some of the codes that come through, and talk about
that would
like
be amazing.
The plays on words and the different contexts. You know, like I could write out a page and I'll read it and I'll look at it and go, what in the world is this?
Yeah.
And I could get frustrated and be like, why is this not clear? What, you know, am I doing something wrong? Am I not? And then I go back the next day and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is hilarious.
Yeah. This is genius. Yeah. Yeah, totally. And it's so fun, you know. It's like writing your dreams down, isn't it? It's like, what did that mean? And then a week later you're like, yeah, I get it. So I guess patience as well is another theme. And
and then somebody else might interpret it and say, oh, this is what it is, and you're like, oh yeah. I didn't think about that. So, well, I'm gonna end on this note. I'm gonna pause this, and then I'll do a little so thank you so much, Kate, for popping on with us and sharing in this experience. And we're going to do this again, I know. I'm just going to pause this just for a moment. And okay, we just said goodbye to Kate. So Kate and I met through Candace, who I have shared her information before. We've done a few videos, and then I became friends with Liz and Saskia, who's a beautiful artist, and another beautiful sister, Megan, and we have this dream share. And Kate and I actually had a session a while ago, and we just completed it, which I feel is very synchronistic. And I've been wanting to share their energy and kind of go back and forth in this collaboration for a while, and we're finally kind of making it happen. So thank you guys so much for sharing in this co-creative expression. Kate is so talented, and she brings through such really beautiful energy, as do many of the sisters that we all connect with, and brothers, not just sisters. But it just so happens I'm working with many different women right now in this female energy, and there will be some brothers that I bring aboard in these as well. And right now I'm just kind of going with the flow, and I'll be sharing a lot more with you guys. So I'm going to share Kate's information at Scientia at the end in case anybody wants to connect with her on a more personal basis. And I can express that I have had a session with her, and it was really enlightening for me and just really beautiful, and it answered a lot of questions that I had. And so I'm moving into this to share with you guys that sometimes, because we're, you know, I can see a lot about other people, and I can see a lot about my own reality structure, and I can see into and claircognizance, clairaudience. But you know, it's fun to play with our other energy workers, because we can always learn more. And sometimes I have this feeling that that's why we don't know everything. Because then what fun would it be if we had all the answers? So it's nice to get answers for another light worker who if you're in that same vibration, and you feel trust and you connect with, get their perspective from perhaps their higher soul aspect, right? Kate, I'm totally using that word. So in love and light, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this and found it supportive in your journey, or informative. And we're going to dive a lot deeper in the next couple of sessions that I'm going to do, or co-creative conversations that we do together with Kate. And Candace will be back on too, and I'm going to hopefully have a couple of other beautiful light workers that I've been connecting with for a while now to join in. And yeah, in the meantime, have fun co-creating, guys, and love and light.